Hi, everyone. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the following podcast belong solely to the host and its contributors. They are not necessarily the views of our employers, organizations, committees, or other group or individual.
Well, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brewing with Bim. As always, I'm Joe Whitney, and with me is Dave Campbell. What's going on, Dave?
Not much, Joe. Another
What?
beautiful day. It's what? Thanksgiving week, man. It's a holiday week. It's
Yep.
exciting. We have like a 4-day weekend coming up. It's
Woo.
the 4-day weekend. Woo woo. Oh wait, it's COVID times. That's right. So I'm
Uh,
gonna be staying at home.
well, hey, for those of you that are tuning in with the video, you might notice we do have a guest with us. We've got Rob Sinclair. Rob, I've known you now probably a year. You're kind of the jack of all trades in the civil space. So I thank you for taking the time to dive in. This is going to be a good episode.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, guys. Glad to be here.
Well, before we get too in depth in this conversation, I'm going to start out by asking everybody what they're drinking. Rob, what are you drinking, man?
So I am drinking a stout by Untitled Art, and I don't know if you can see that, but
Yeah, just got to hold it in front of yourself. That's all.
yep, it's this bleep just got serious, so it's kind of a fitting beer for the times we're in right now.
That's true.
It's a nice 11% beer, so hopefully I make it through this thing with you guys.
All right. Well, you have we were just chatting about this offline, but you have quite the beer selection going on. So maybe your next beer you choose something that is only 9%. Not that that's too much of a difference, but
Yeah, I like a variety of craft beers. I like trying new things. I don't like the basic stuff out there, but I subscribe to an online subscription service. So every month I get a case of individual beers shows up at my house, and then I get the bill, and I'm like, holy heck, I spent that much money on this.
yeah. So you had me almost sold on it until I started looking at the prices. And that's where it lost me. It's like I cannot do this. My wife will kill me.
Yep.
Um,
That's where the build a six-pack comes in
yeah.
handy. Like if I can build a
But
six-pack, but even that, I mean, that's even more expensive than buying a regular
well,
six or
the
sometimes
build
a
a
12-pack.
six, the build a six packs are usually, unless you've got a large local craft selection,
Mm-hmm.
they're a lot of the big names anyway. So is it really worth it to build a six pack? I like to do so in Indiana, you brought a few local craft ones, and I like doing
Yeah.
those. But for the like most part of times our alcohol laws are ridiculous here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Um, so like, you go to the grocery store and they don't have a big offering, right? I'm sure you've seen this, Rob, where we're kind of pigeonholed by just a few big name breweries, and maybe there's one or two locals.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you heard the recent news with the governor shutting down the bars at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, tomorrow, on the biggest party day of the year. I mean, I kind of get it, to reduce the spread, but I know it hurts a lot of the businesses around here for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I just so my wife's birthday was last week, and it just so happened that Oregon actually shut down on her birthday, and I had this whole thing planned where she was going to go get a massage. Her and her best friend were going to go get a massage, and they'd go get lunch together. And then I found a babysitter for our kids, and we were going to go meet them. So me and her husband were going to go meet them for dinner, and like we were going to go get a couple drinks, and hang out, have some adult time. Well, that didn't happen. So I had to improvise, and I'm like, all right, dude. They went to get a massage, and I'm like, let's go ahead. We still got the babysitter. We ran out to Fred Meyer, and then I went to like a Mexican restaurant, to try and get some supplies, get some little sombreros, get some margarita mix and stuff like that, and bring it back to the house so we could like make a nice kind of meal for them. But I was talking to this one of the owners here in town, the Mexican restaurant, and asked him, kind of how are you guys doing with all this, and are you seeing like a good influx of takeout orders to help keep you guys going? And he told me that it seemed like they just got back on their feet to where they could start making a profit again, because he stayed open to try and keep paying people and try to keep supporting his customer base and everything as much as he could. And they finally got to a point where they were profiting, and then he's like, and then there's a 2-week shutdown, so they go right back into it. I think it sucks. It does. I think it's going to hurt a lot of small business owners, but I don't know, man. I've been trying to personally, I've been going out and trying to eat out a little bit more, which it sucks, but it doesn't. Like, it's cool because I get to eat out a little bit more, I get to be lazy a little bit, but it does suck that I'm spending a little bit more money. But at the same time, I kind of I try to think of if I was in that situation, if I finally had my dream of owning a restaurant and I was doing pretty successful, and then something like this come along, and, I'd hope that people would come out and support me. So
Yeah,
I think,
we do the same. When this all started, my wife and I were like, let's order takeout, lunch, and dinner every day, and try a new place every day just to help out everyone.
Yeah.
Put on 10 pounds since, but and she actually started a food group on Facebook for the county that we live in, and it has like 7,000 followers that they upload menus and specials. And so many people have reached out to her thanking her just because they've gotten so much traffic now throughout all this, just keeping their business up as much as possible.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
awesome.
good. We've got a I don't know if you follow anything. We're like the next county up, obviously, but like so where I live, the county or the city, the municipality started hosting started in like October, I guess, a movie like event outside type ordeal where you're social distancing but you're outside. They're showing a movie on a big screen, and it's a newer movie, and they have food trucks from all the local restaurants and all that stuff, where people setting up with carts and stuff outside trying to support local businesses. And I don't know, I feel like there's whenever anything like that happens where your community steps out, or your wife or whoever steps out and actually helps support the community. I don't know, man. I feel like it's better for all. You're bringing awareness. You're helping keep jobs, and it's just a fun time to not sit at home and have to worry about what you're going to make for dinner.
Yeah.
So what are you guys drinking?
Oh, there you go, man. You asked the $1 million question. So I'm going to start. I've got a Trogs Mad Elf, and it is delicious. It's the honey and cherry, seasonal mix that comes out. It, like yours, is an 11%. I'm down to my last two of these, so you can't really see it. There we go. So after this, I'll probably switch to, my next favorite beer locally. Have any of you guys had Elvis juice?
Yeah,
Brewdog.
Yep.
Oh man, I am a fan. They opened up a Pittsburgh location, so I'm on that train, man.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Dave, what about yourself, man?
So I got a couple, a few different things here actually. My first one, I got a Rogue Bat Squatch, hazy Indiana, geez Louise, India Pale Ale. So this one's actually, I've had this before. I got a variety pack. Rogue had a supply drop, right? And they have 4 of their different kinds of beers, and it's awesome. I love Rogue's beers.
Rogue does a great job with just about everything they do, man.
Yeah, dude. So actually, I wanted to go back to the last episode when I was talking about that. I was actually mistaken when I was saying they aged them in the Rogue Dead Guy barrels. They do the Rogue Dead Guy Ale. They do still age them in the ocean barrels, but they actually use the same malt from the Dead Guy Ale. So that's what they use for the whiskey. And yeah, it's different, dude. It has the little dead guy on the top and everything. I went back to the liquor store to look at it. Like, drool on it a little bit more, really debate on it. Like, all right, next time I'm just doing it. I'm going to buy it. And then I have a Abominable Winter Ale from the Hopworks Urban Brewing, or the Hub Brewery.
I love Hub, man. That is like the most family-friendly brewery there is. They've got a kids' play section. Like, it's a cool spot.
Heck yeah, it is, dude. Oh, and I almost forgot. I got my new Bullet. So, dude, I love the alcohol gift sets. By the way, I'm kind of a sucker for those. But I got some more whiskey cups. These are Bullet cups. They came with a 750 milliliter container of Bullet bourbon, and I was like, $25, and I get cups? Yes. Yeah. I'm a sucker for free stuff.
I think you're just a sucker, but it's all right. Sorry, man. All right. Well, we started diving into like kind of hardships felt by people in the area for COVID and what's going on. a lot of us have felt a different kind of hardship, and that's travel. And I noticed you have this beautiful background of the Italy trip that I'm going to ask you about here in a second. Did that get put on hold this year as well?
It did, yeah. Yeah, we were supposed to go back for a third time in April, and that got pushed back for obvious reasons. So
Well,
hopefully next year we get to go back and do our thing.
So tell everybody a little bit about this trip. It's it's a big deal. It's one of the first things I looked into when I Googled Autodesk in Pittsburgh together.
Yeah, so it started in 2016 with the Volterra Detroit Foundation. There's a gentleman in Pittsburgh that is on the board of that foundation, and they actually have a residential college over in Volterra, Italy. So we partnered up with the town and the mayor of Volterra to digitally capture some of the ancient historical, artifacts in the city. A lot of the historic features in the city are older than some of the newer, I guess one example is this Etruscan arch. There's a Etruscan arch in Italy that is actually on the UNESCO World Heritage list. And the mayor of Volterra wanted their arch to be on that list because it's older and it's, definitely been around. And so he was a big proponent of us coming over, digitally capturing everything. And that was right around the time that Italy had a few earthquakes that damaged some of their, prized historic possessions over there. So they wanted a digital record of it. So if a natural disaster would happen, we could have that point cloud essentially to rebuild it exactly as it stood today. So we did, 20 some projects in the city. We did other projects throughout other parts of Italy. I personally went over twice. A couple other folks went over 3 times. This year would have been our 4th trip over there. So it's definitely pretty cool. Pretty definitely blessed that I got to be a part of that. And when we got to the city the first time, it was almost like we were celebrities. The mayor had a welcoming ceremony for us. All the people in the town was buying us little coffees and espressos, and it was just a cool feeling. And we had kind of free reins of the town to go into these kind of roped off areas that nobody should ever get into, but we were allowed to go in because we were scanning this information and helping the city out.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I know government entities that where these historical artifacts are, they're very protective on who gets in and all that stuff. So it's great that you guys, a group of Americans with this cool technology got to come in and digitally capture everything. We actually have a friend of ours who did. I don't know if you're familiar with Topa 3D. Paul Tice, their scan company, and
okay,
they went and did the Ark, the Noah's Ark and stuff, or what they
Nice.
believe to be Noah's Ark. Yeah. But like there's a whole like cloud of secrecy around it. Like they can't do certain stuff, and you guys kind of had free range with the data. Like I've gotten to see some of the stuff that you guys produce. So what are is this something you guys get to just share willy-nilly with everybody? It's not like held close to the vest?
Yeah, so everybody that's been involved with this can use the data any way they want. It's not protected by any means. So, we definitely share it for educational purposes. If people want the data for different reasons, for educational reasons, we'll definitely share that. And year over year, we want to go back. One project, for example, was last year, 2019, we discovered the first Roman amphitheater in Italy in the last 150 years. And it was covered up in dirt and grass and everything. So we flew drones and we scanned it and surveyed it. And then archaeologists came in and started uncovering it. So we got a subsequent scan after that. And we actually weren't allowed to go back to Italy because of COVID. So we shipped the scanner over, FaceTime one of the students on how to operate the scanner so that we could document midway through the uncovering where the progression is of the archaeologist's work. So we got that data set, and then whenever they're done, we'll scan it again so we can have that progression of them unearthing this Roman amphitheater.
Well, that's going to take some dedication on y'all's part. I mean, shipping a piece of equipment overseas for somebody else to use in hopes that it doesn't break and it gets returned and all that sort of stuff. But just to capture a kind of time sequence of how this is all, playing out and what's being unearthed and see the how things have changed. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and we've been fortunate that a lot of the software and equipment manufacturers have donated the equipment for this adventure. So, I guess if it did break during shipping, hopefully we wouldn't be liable for it. So far, so good.
Yeah. Kind of.
We have an Italian office, man. We just got to give them a call and tell them to go out there.
Yeah, there you go. Right. That'd be nice. But rewinding back to like the COVID point there, I just wanted, I was thinking about this as you were talking, because, typically we would go ahead and send people out to the site. And of course, during COVID times, we can't really do that. But the use of the technology, we've seen that adoption, right? And new ways of using that technology, because of course we can't allow as many people on a normal construction site or, as many things as we were before, right? So we're kind of developing new workflows, developing new processes to use this technology in different ways. I kind of, I don't know. I kind of like it. Like I don't like COVID. Don't get me wrong. I do not like COVID. Obviously, I'm not one of those people.
We're gonna call you a COVID sympathizer. You're gonna get a label. You're gonna have to wear a scarlet letter, man.
Right. But I am seeing the technology or the usage of the technology advance, in terms of, let's say, scanning for safety issues, things like that. We're using some of the robotic, like I've seen like almost RC cars type of things that can drive through the site to, actual dog, the robot dog and all that kind of stuff. It's what's up?
I was gonna say Rob could probably talk more about the robot dog just a little bit. They're exploring some avenues.
Spot.
Yeah,
Spot is awesome.
Yeah, we're pretty invested in getting one. One of our vice presidents was really on board with getting one, and I know there's some other competitors out there to spot now, but pretty big price tag, so we have to find a business case for it at around $75,000 for one of those guys. But just the safety aspect of putting Spot in somewhere where you don't want a human to be is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mining, detecting gases, nuclear sites. I mean, there's a whole use case.
I gotta ask though, it's not constantly scanning, right? It's essentially a transport device that reaches a destined position and then takes a scan. Right. Because it can like self-level itself and everything.
Yeah, so you could program it with waypoints, or you can have like QR codes if you're inside a building to have Spot go to a certain position, stop, activate the scanner, take the scan, then move to the next position, and just keep doing that. The unfortunate thing with that, I think it only has an hour battery life, but you can strap additional battery packs onto them. So you got to kind of weigh all that into consideration.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially when going down. I mean, when we can get into those, archaeological sites or mining, if you can get into mines, but those things go for a really, really long time. I mean, I guess we just know that you go down for a half hour, you got to bring him up a half hour, change his battery. But I guess that would be, I don't know, it's either that or set up checkpoints. But I mean, that's a very cool use of technology, and we'll have to see how it kind of evolves, right, and how it grows.
Yeah, we can check back with you maybe a year from now, 6 months from whenever you guys get one, and kind of get your personal feedback on it. That'd be an interesting perspective.
Yeah, it would be cool. Yeah, I mean it's interesting because I thought it might be scanning while it was walking. I couldn't figure out how it would recognize like the jarring motions it would set off.
Well, it could there could be an algorithm to account for a lot of this stuff.
I'm sure you could do that with one of the SLAM technology scanners. There's a company in Pittsburgh, Carta, that has a great unit that you could probably strap on that thing and do real-time scanning.
Yeah, I've chatted with their CEO and their director of marketing. They're actually looking at coming on the podcast. So I mean,
yeah, the scanners that we're seeing nowadays are awesome, man. We're seeing backpack scanners, handheld scanners, and then wheels. The ones with wheels on it. I seen one they were pushing like a cart kind of thing, and it had a scanner on it, and they were able to kind of push it around. Now I wasn't sure about stairs, with that. You might be dragging that thing backwards like a dolly, but you know, I don't know. It looked pretty cool though.
The ones on wheels always make me think of like a hospital. Like they're so surgical in their look.
Yeah.
It's just like, or sterile, not surgical. They're so sterile in their appeal.
Yeah.
It's like, who's doing this? Like this is not a construction.
Yeah, we actually had a backpack scanner in Italy, and we walked through every single street in the entire town to capture all the data we could with that backpack scanner.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, the SLAM algorithms are they're really coming along. The IMUs, and it's great technology to be able to leverage in scanners.
Well, okay, so we can now get into the other portion of that, though. I think with scanning, we're talking about scanning. What about UAVs and drones? We're starting to see a lot more usage with that too, and a lot more usage cases, I think.
Rob, so real quick before we dive into that, I don't think we said who you work for. If that's cool, if we mention your employer, but you guys have you guys are huge, and you guys have a large fleet of drones and technology. I guess is how you're getting to play with all these amazing tools.
Yeah. So I work for Civil and Environmental Consultants, CEC. We're based and headquartered out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Ooh,
25 offices. Yep. 20 Pittsburgh 10-0 Steelers, right? Yep.
Yeah. About to jump on a bandwagon and just saying.
Yeah, you should. You should get your terrible towel in your in the background there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have about 1,100 employees across 25 offices, and you know, I'm a Part 107 pilot myself. Been involved with the drone program at CEC from kind of day one, and we have 30 remote pilots and probably about 30 drones with all sorts of different remote sensing technology strapped onto it: photogrammetry, optical gas, near infrared. We got LiDAR. You know, you name it. We probably have that sensor we could strap on a drone. And we're actually going down in 2 weeks to Alabama to pick up a new toy. So,
yeah, I know some of those drones. You mentioned the gas powered one a second ago. They get up there, man. Those are quite costly. You were talking about a big expense for Spot. I've seen some of those go for nearly $250,000.
Yeah, and thankfully CEC is really good about that. You know, we have a good business plan in place and the technology's kind of proven itself over the years. You know, the drone program's been around for about 5 years now at CEC. We actually started when you needed a 333 exemption. We were one of the first engineering companies in the country to have that. So we kind of proved the technology, and they're kind of willing to open up the checkbook, so to speak, to invest in new technology.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, what all have you seen? Like what workflows have you seen kind of boosted? What have you seen the results coming out of those UAV kind of photogrammetry?
Photogrammetry wise, it's definitely a really valuable tool set. You know, from entry level Phantom 4 Pro with or without RTK, you can get really accurate results with the Phantom 4 for just a couple $1,000s entry level, as long as you're flying like an open site, dirt, grass, that kind of thing. Once you get into vegetation, tree cover, things like that, you definitely want to go LiDAR. But we did a study in Italy, just kind of messing around with data and different sensors. We did traditional surveying with GPS. We did terrestrial LiDAR, and we flew the Phantom 4 drone on a project. And then we compared all that data, and it's surprising how accurate the photogrammetry is. I mean, it's within a few hundredths of an inch with the photogrammetry on that particular project that we did all this comparison on. So, I knew it was good, but once I did that comparison, I'm like, on a wide open site, photogrammetry, definitely people should not push that away.
Yeah. Now, so let me ask then, what did the translation of that data look like downstream? What results did you get out of it?
Yeah, so it depends on this particular project that I mentioned. We ultimately wanted to pull that into Civil 3D for an existing topo surface, so that we could do designs on top of that. So, a lot of what we do in the civil engineering industry is capturing existing ground data for engineers to design on top of. We do some, our architectural scanning interior and exterior, but typically we deliver a point cloud to whatever client that may be. We do have a team that does as-built documentation in Revit, Plant 3D, and different softwares like that using point cloud data. So, I mean, we're kind of a broad spectrum of different services that we provide. So,
yeah.
So
well, Joey and I. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, so on a previous episode, we were chatting with Carlos, who mentioned a project he was working with you guys specifically, I guess from an as-built standpoint, where you guys were capturing laser scan data. Is that same team kind of oversee the drones, the scanning, the as-built, all that sort of stuff? And do you guys have, standards kind of in place for, proven processes? He had a really good talk piece about, the benefits and the workflow that he was doing. So it just made perfect sense.
Yeah, and that was a great project that we got to work on with him. And yeah, we do have kind of a large team in place that does all that kind of work. And we all communicate probably on a bi-weekly basis just to make sure we're all on the same page with standards and processes. But that project in particular, that was as-built documentation during construction. So we were actually on call. So if they would dig a trench and they were going to lay pipe in that trench, they would give us a 24-hour notice, say, hey, you guys need to be here to scan this. And so we would do that throughout the construction. And what they would take this data and use it for is as-built documentation. So in the future, if they did phase 2 or phase 3 of this project, or they would do any construction on site, they would be able to open up this point cloud and pull it into Plant 3D or other softwares to say, okay, are we going to have any conflicts if we dig here or build this foundation over here?
That is remarkable data to have. I did a lot of stuff with Texas Railroad Commission data in the past, and they do not know where most of their pipes are. So the fact that you have a firm, a self-performing contractor in this sorts, wanting to push that envelope to capture this data so that they don't run into any issues in the future, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and from his standpoint, he mentioned to us that, in the past, every time they did not do this, they would always hit like a conduit or something like that. And it would cost way more to replace that than it did for us to scan the project and have that accurate documentation.
Oh, I can imagine. We've done some work in the past with various, I won't call anybody out, just say they're ports. And they don't even know what is underneath the ground. They don't know where their sewer lines are. They don't know where anything is. Mm-hmm. They have all these additions going on and renovations, and they're constantly hitting their existing utilities, and it's costing them, thousands and tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of, work to mm-hmm. fix and repair all this stuff, and then they have to figure out how they're going to move it.
I think that's why we're seeing a big push to smart cities, right? And, Joey and I have talked about this. This is the big pie in the sky, right? Or my big idea is
GIS.
I'd like to have, that big database where all of the existing conditions are recorded. And if we can kind of pull from that and know that it's actually updated, this is like 10 or 15 years old and this site has gone through 3 editions, and I didn't even know this was all here. It's nuts. But I mean, if we can get to that point, I think as things are added, as they're adjusted, and not, I mean, I want to have a point cloud, right? But I also think that I want to push forward and think we're going to have a better process for this scan to BIM translation or scan to SIM translation, right? InfoWorks, I think, does a great job with the topo surface. If we can find the underground piping networks and things like that and understand what's going on there, right, and then integrate that into an existing model and then bring both of those together, I think that, that would be kind of the way of the future-ish. I think that's the way I want to see it.
So this is going to lead into another long tangent. So just put a pin in that because I really want to get down this rabbit hole. But real quick, Dave, you asked a question earlier about the deliverable, essentially, from the scan and the drone process. And there's something that we didn't touch on that we talked about at another time. So Rob, for those that don't recall, Dave and I did this roundtable for Dynamo.
Yep.
For the Festival of BIM and Digital Construction. you guys were using Dynamo to take UAV data. I believe it was UAV data to take trees and all that sort of stuff. Talk a little bit about that, and then I do want to jump back on that because that opens up a lot of Pandora's box.
Yeah, so I think we're definitely just scratching the surface with the power of Dynamo. You know, we definitely have some custom scripts to raise and lower surfaces and do other things like that. One of the most recent things that we're looking into, we also do mobile LiDAR. So we need to do power line extraction, and we have to analyze where the power lines are within 6 inches of one another throughout this basically a 30-mile run. And we also have to measure the lowest point of that line sag to the ground surface. So we're still working on that. You know, we're definitely a work in progress right now. We're probably 80% of the way there, I would say, but you know, that's definitely going to be a big hurdle if we figure out how to get that done.
So we have a like a standing BIM user. I don't know what we call ourselves, man. It's just a group of people that like alcohol and Autodesk technology. And you brought this up there, and the other gentleman that was with us. Sorry, I'm pointing a knife. I'm trying to open my beer. I left my beer opener in the other room to go run and grab it. But we have this.
He stabs his hand.
Yeah,
it's fine. Just pour some of the whiskey on it.
I have a box of beer bottle openers that you screw into the wall. I have like 10 of them all through my house, my deck, up, lower, upper deck, all that sort of stuff. Like 13 places in my garage. But for whatever reason, I don't have one in my office. That was the poor mistake on my part. But so the gentleman that we chat with on this, Travis Williams, that guy's mind for Dynamo is crazy. So like you rope that guy in, man. He's good. He's good.
And as you know, on the architectural side, you know, Dynamo's been around 5+ years. On the civil side, we just got it just over a year ago, so it's still new for us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, if anybody can figure it out, man, it's definitely you. You know, like what, 80 different programs. You're definitely well versed in this. You're an Autodesk Expert Elite. I see your shirt on right now, man.
Yeah, I didn't realize we'd be on camera. I would have dressed up for this.
Oh man, it's all good. I
guess the saying is jack of all trades, master of none. There's like a handful of things that I would consider myself to be above average at, but you know, those 80 softwares, it's all kinds of things, from all the Autodesk applications to you know, all the remote sensing applications, scanning, all that good stuff. So you got to figure out how to make it all work.
Dude, that's another one I really want to get into. There's so many tangents I want to get into on this, but you know, remote scanning. Well, let's say remote verification, the sensors, like censoring, right? I think that if we can get to a point where you can fly something over and it has a sensor to detect, you know, the movement on it. So I worked on a project with a company that was, well, I haven't fully worked on it with them. Now, I was brought in to kind of talk about the different things that might happen for a transportation system that started out in a tube, and I think they're gonna be in a tube kind of thing, right? And they transport people very fast. And they were talking about people or things. They were talking about the ground moving and, you know, the force that it would put on the system as it goes. They have to verify, like, if this does move, how far does it move? Because, you know, if you're using like let's say magnetic levitation or whatever it might be, you know, you got to know where this is, right? You got to know where this piece, this tube, or this prefabricated piece, what have you, might be. And I mean, on something like that, let's think about how that could be used. If you just fly a drone down this and you know exactly where your deviation points, any off points might be, and then you can call, like, maybe that'll set up an issue that automatically tags or set up a responsibility, you know, sends it back to a database. I think as we start, man, I think we could talk about that for days. That gets me excited.
You're talking about like deflection inside. Sorry, I had to go open a beer, guys. Are you talking about like deflection from like rail lines and bridges and seeing how things change?
Yeah. I think deflections from rail lines, buildings, like roadways, anything.
You said magnetic levitation, and it brought one specific project to mind. So leave it at that. NDA.
Yeah. Yep. But I think like on that project, I think something like that would be cool. The railways, I think roads, bridges, because a lot of times I've seen the structural bridge, inspections. When I was back at Ivy Tech, I had a instructor who worked for the city government, and he went around kind of inspecting their bridges to see if they were inside or outside of tolerance levels, right? And for one person or even a couple of people to do that, a lot of times they're eyeballing, then they go ahead and try to take measurements, and it's not a very great process, it seems like. You know what I mean? And you're thinking about how much these bridges do, how much weight they support, and I'm like, man, that seems like it's a pretty big deal, and you want to get accurate results. But I think as we get into something like scanning like that, if you can fly the drone over the roadway, you'd be able to do more than a person could in so much less time.
That brings up a few different things, Rob. I'm probably going to ask you about here in a sec. But so with scanning over roadways, aren't there specific roadways that you can and can't scan over or fly over, rather, drones?
Well, yeah, technically you can't fly over any roadways. So,
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, but you could fly alongside the roadway and still capture the data. So you got to kind of play that card. But to what you were just talking about, imagine what in the future, like any new construction project, like a bridge, if we set up on survey control and scan that, and then, if there is deviation or whatever, you could set up on that same survey control year over year and check for, potential failures or whatever, using all this remote sensing technology that we have at our fingertips now.
Yeah.
I remember chatting with the event that actually you and I met face to face with, which was the Pennsylvania Surveyors event last year.
Yeah.
There was a gentleman there that was he worked for a consultant, but did a lot of Pennsylvania DOT work, and his whole thing was about measuring deflection and deviation with bridges and seeing if things are failing, if there's sags and all that sort of stuff. And having a stationary total station, monitoring that real time was never in the initial budget. So they don't even have known point. I'm sure they have controls somewhere where they can figure it out. But like, had they just mounted something to begin with, they would have a constant reading. It just has to be thought of ahead of time. But firms like you guys going back after the fact, to get that level of accuracy in those tolerances, are you using remote sensing? Is it, position topographic, scanners, for lack of a better term? Is it total stations? What type of stuff do you guys typically do?
It all depends. I mean, like what you just brought up, we had a school down in West Virginia that was actually mine subsidence underneath was causing it to kind of sink, and it was causing some cracks in the foundation. So we set up a total station real-time analysis and had that data reading back to the project team so that they can analyze the movement and try to figure out how to fix that project. So, I mean, it all depends on what the project is and what the ultimate deliverable is, depending on which one of these hundreds of different pieces of technology you're going to select and use.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So as you're wearing your Autodesk, you said hundreds of pieces of technology. You've got your Autodesk shirt on there. I imagine you live most of your life today in the Autodesk applications, being Civil 3D, InfraWorks. Where do you spend most of your time?
Yeah, primarily Civil 3D, InfraWorks, Recap, because we have to, I guess, to get
because they took that functionality out of
product.
Hey, at least it's a Pittsburgh application. Come on, man.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I know an ex Recap team member, and they refer to it as Recrap.
Well, did that person go off to find another scan company or a point cloud company?
This wasn't the same guy, but
okay.
I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, the guy that started another kind of scan to mesh company.
I was disappointed when they took the scan to mesh functionality out of Recap.
Too, dude.
Oh yeah.
I've tried the recap photo, and that does create a mesh, which is cool. That creates a surface, so that's kind of cool. It is a tin surface, but it was interesting to me how I'm like, man, let me go ahead and take some pictures of this basement room, right? And maybe I can make this like model out of it and bring it in as a point cloud and kind of start. No, that didn't work at all.
We can take the tin and create, or we can take the point cloud and create civil surfaces, export them to Civil 3D from InfoWorks. Is that typically the workflow you're doing these days?
No, I mean, InfoWorks.
Well, you've got a million softwares, I'm sure.
Yeah, InfoWorks, it's getting better, but it's still not to the level of some of these other applications that we have at our fingertips. I mean, obviously they still cost money, but InfoWorks is getting better. Ultimately, I would love to just run everything through the Autodesk products because we have them anyway. We paid for them. If we could eliminate some of these other third-party softwares that we need, that would be ideal.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So,
we've seen that a lot, and I know we got to see a lot of improvement with that with InfoWorks too. I know it's not as precise. I've seen a lot of people talk about using InfoWorks for conceptual and actually pushing a little bit past conceptual and then making all the fine tweaks in Civil 3D is a lot of times what I've found.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do. And then you also can take it back into InfoWorks at the end, after you're done with your construction documents, and then you could kind of show that. Yeah, for public meetings or whatever. So you could just take images or fly through videos. You can also host that model on BIM 360, which is now a different name now coming up.
Oh yeah, all the changes with that one. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so I've been on BIM 360, I don't know, seems like a million years now, but probably about 5 years. And I've seen it through all these different iterations. And the whole time I've just been thinking to myself, to get adoption outside of 3D workflows, or at least vertical 3D workflows, we need to change the name from BIM 360. And two, we need to be able to tie into other programs. We made the leap with other programs, mainly Civil 3D this past year. And then the news that was announced at AU, which was a blast this year, just not the same, was that it's included now with the AEC collections. Docs for the most part at least was, right. And then now the new brand, new names, all that fun stuff. Going forward with this, do you guys anticipate, taking advantage of BIM 360 or Docs rather?
Yeah. So, with Civil 3D, we have to do the collaboration for Civil 3D, which needs the design license.
Collaborate now.
Yeah. Everybody was confused before this, and now they're going to even be more confused.
Even more confused.
New naming.
Oh yeah.
Wait, C4?
No, it's the next gen.
Design? No, wait. Next gen.
It's the next.
We've had this internal joke. Yeah, we've been under embargo for a while, and we were like, all right, let's talk about this eventually. So I'm glad it's lifted. I'm glad we can say stuff.
Yeah. So up until recently, there were limitations to using Civil 3D with BIM 360 design because it had didn't really support Sheet Set Manager, didn't support data references. So there were kind of odd workarounds to get around it, but it was kind of your average everyday user. It would have been kind of too much for them to take on. Yeah. So that's getting better. So we're definitely going to keep it in the back of our mind as a valuable alternative to,
Well, so things are, I'm going to tip my hand a little bit. Things are changing in that regard. Our employer, Dave and I's employer, was going down this venture of developing stuff. Autodesk came to us and said, that's a great idea. We'll take it from here. So there are enhancements that are coming. I'm going to leave it at that are going to make your life a lot easier.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's the time frame on that? Are you allowed to say?
12 years, man. So when BIM 360 first came out and it was Project Alexandria, we got this whole pitch. We had all of us flew to Denver. We did this whole thing. We were sitting in a room with this newly formed Autodesk construction team, and they're like, "Hey guys, guess what? All of this legacy stuff that you're used to, field glue, it's coming, within 6 months, it'll be the next version. 6 months turned into a year turned into 2 years, 2 years turned into 3 years, 3 years turned into probably 4 years. So right now we're getting to the point where we actually have a glue, like twin, right? And the new platform, and build is essentially the twin for field. And now Autodesk is like, okay, we're here. And then they re-release a new thing and all these changes. So much hasn't changed with the glue thing, right? So now it's coordinates just migrated to the design team. They merged those teams. But build is a completely new product. They rebuilt it on PlanGrid. It's going to be better. I have 100% faith in it. It's going to be a great product. But at the same time, it was like, what's that?
I'm also really excited for the coordinate kind of portion, because you think about being able to coordinate now.
Yeah, you're embedded with design
2D,
process.
3D, DWGs. Yeah, dude. I mean, that's really what we've been talking about, is bridging that gap, right? But making sure that as the CAD models, DWGs, plant, whatever it is, as they update, I want to see the package creation. I want to see the design collaboration, like publishing and actually able to create packages of document sets and things like that you can allow others to consume and then kind of push forward with it. And then again, integrating further into that communication process of coordination and clash detection. And I know we got into this a little bit before, man, but this is also where I want to see us getting into that clash prevention, right? I know we put a pin in the last one, so I'm going to bring up another one.
Dave's got like a VDC, like,
dude, I do. I really
VDC, like, hard on right now.
I do, man.
We gotta talk about this.
All the
Sam VDC guys.
VDC Viagra. It's
patent that, copyright VDC Viagra.
VDC Viagra.
I want that on a T-shirt.
Oh, man,
love it, man.
Get that clash prevention across the board. I'm very excited for that thought process. As these designs are updated, design changes might become or change orders, I would say, would become a thing of the past, right? In that sense, because you're already getting into predicting what's going to happen. Now, change orders.
I don't think change orders are going to go away.
Well,
we make our money on change orders, right? I mean, most.
Yeah, but I guess if owners go through the process making changes, the design change orders themselves,
RFIs are going to go away. That's what we're going to see.
The depth of the RFIs type of thing.
That's going to go away because the design process has changed. It's more interconnected. You have the latest updated information. We have a friend. I don't know if you've been exposed to David Cordicus, Rob, but that gentleman is like trying to kill RFIs.
Gotcha.
Well, that's a good thing. I think that we should. Like, you shouldn't need to request information. All of the information should be at your fingertips. It should be right there. It should be in the model or whatever interface. And please, let's just make it like one interface to access the information at least. We know the designs themselves can be in, Advanced Steel, Plant 3D, AutoCAD, Revit, what have you, or whatever other programs you want to use, but let's bring them all together, at least in one environment, one platform, common data environment, right? So we can interpret all of this data.
So this is all like mostly for the vertical space. Rob, does this play in the civil space for you? Are you running up to the same issues?
So yeah, I mean, the civil groups are always the redheaded stepchild and last on the list to get all this cool collaborative technologies.
I blame you guys, surveyors, damn it.
Yeah, so once you guys see it 100%, I think we're probably going to be 5 or 10 years behind that.
Yeah, I think that, but at the same time, I'm excited. I'm still looking forward to it, because at the same time, when we can really integrate these processes, it's only going to help our industry as a whole. Joey, you said it was kind of vertical focused, but if I think about it, a project, when you go to get your initial permits to break ground, you have to know where your utilities are going to be. You have to know where your structure.
Yeah, and that's a civil engineer surveyor focus, right? To think about that.
So, I mean, it is, but it's not at the same time. You got to think about, let's talk about design build, right? Because that was actually one of my first experiences with breaking ground and getting these projects, getting it permitted, going through and making sure all of our gosh, I can't remember what it was, but you got to send up all the information for your building so they can approve it based off the energy that it would use.
Yeah. I thought you meant like specifically what was in the ground that you were digging.
Oh yeah,
breaking ground.
Yeah, breaking ground. You're going to break ground, right? And when we apply for that permit, they got to know an idea, a general idea, like conceptual, right? Because that's what I see a lot of times. It's pre-baked. Yes, it is design intent. Yeah, but it's a lot of times they'll use that to kind of break ground, and then they'll be developing as they're going out to cut and things like that. You know, they're adjusting the drawings. Man, I really think if we can really tie everything together so that, again, as the civil design changes to let us know if lines are being moved or they're going here, so the architect himself knows, okay, I need to position my building here. The electrician knows this is where the entry power is going to be, you know, and then the actual machine control knows, like, you know, we want to tie everything together. So the bulldozer, the scraper, the excavator themselves, everybody is connected to this environment. So again, as these things change, you know, it's updated for everybody. You know, my stepdad is actually he's a heavy equipment operator for Reith Riley out of Indiana, local 150. And he tells me one of his pain points is going out to the site. And this dude's a journeyman. He's been doing this for 30, 40 years. He's going out to the site. You know, he goes out and he operates the grader and he'll cut all these curb lines and everything. And a great day. And then he'll come out the next day and there were design changes that he didn't know about that happened yesterday. And now he's got to go back and rework all of that stuff he did yesterday. And that's literally like 16 to 20 hours of work that if the file that he'd have been pulling from for his GPS and everything would have updated, he would have known, and it could have said, oh, well, you know what, let's go ahead and make this change. Let's get off of what we're doing. And if it'll refresh, and even if there's like an alert, like we think about with Revit or with AutoCAD, Civil 3D, our XREF updates, right? Then it lets you know, it sends you a little alert that you can click on and say, oh, my XREF updated, let's refresh. We should have the same kind of thing, I think, with machine control, so that, you know, again, everybody in the whole construction process itself is connected.
You can.
That would be awesome.
You can. Awesome. And we can chat about that later.
Cheers.
I can show you that stuff, man.
I'd like to be involved with that chat too. I'm curious.
Yeah. So the machine control side, there is a cloud-based application that'll update the project files. There's a manual QA process that goes with it, but you can actually make sure that you're working with the latest files. In fact, we can connect that directly to BIM 360. So as our civil designers, whoever, update files in BIM 360, they update in our external application.
That's what I want to see, man. That's exactly what I want to see. That would be.
I'm going to show you guys some Magnet Enterprise, and you guys are going to be happy.
Hey, man, I really think I can't get off of it. I'm a technology hippie, right? I want to connect everybody together.
Oh, you hippie!
Bridge all of these workflows.
You're the only hippie I know that's building an AR, by the way. So.
Hey, that's all right. It's all green.
So have you guys, you know, speaking of earth moving and you know what civil engineers do is we grade the ground and for development to happen. Have you guys seen Ground Force, which is now kind of getting rebranded to grading optimization, I think it is?
I did. I'm pretty happy about that, man. Design automation in the civil space is going to be huge. That and the new SpaceMaker acquisition, I think they're going to drive our industries. It's going to be great.
Yeah, SpaceMaker like gets, you know, parking lot designs and things like that. It will be a game changer for us for sure.
Well, think about what Dave was chatting about earlier with the GIS side. He said smart cities, but being able to tie in your SpaceMaker to account for existing conditions with GIS information, and it's automatically accounting for where you can build, what you can build, how you can build. That feeds back into our whole design process, and then you take it a step further with the actual design, right? The engineering output. The grading optimization, as they're dubbing it.
If we're going to get into this conversation, this podcast is going to be a long one, bro. This is so. I mean, I think with smart cities, and as you're saying, Joey, all of that should go into the design itself. Once we get design automation in that sense, even as we have it now, I think where we're able to enter certain parameters, certain things, right? Certain little tidbits of information. Shoot, let's start automating that. So, hey, you want to start with InfoWorks, and you know the general plots of land that you want to look at, right? Or let's not even say InfoWorks. Let's just say whatever it is that you're going to use. You want to look at these different sites. Well, okay, let's look at the demographics and psychographics of this site. Okay, from there, let's look at the overlay of your site. Let's look at how the space is used. How many employees are you looking to have? What are you looking to do? And then you start getting into the code compliance and everything that really gets going to automate a lot of the processes that you would recognize as pain points throughout that entire construction process.
So
Dude,
there's a company in England doing this. We've actually had this conversation. We've gone off on this tangent, and they wanted to come on the podcast. I guess hours didn't align, timing didn't align just yet, but we'll get them on. Where they're already accounting for psychographics and demographics, existing site conditions. They've got a wealth, because they're light years ahead in the GIS space and the BIM space, where they've captured asset information across
that's setting
multiple
your
sites.
owners up for success at that point, right?
Yeah. So being able to, my background, my degree was in GIS. Being able to go back and look at a site and help a retail store plan where they're going to be, that's simple GIS. But you tie in things like psychographics and people's buying patterns. This is stuff Target does, right? Before they put in locations, they figure out who's buying what ads to run, all that sort of stuff. But you give that kind of level of information to the construction industry, or I guess owners to use in the construction space, where they're being able to tie into GIS information, where, hey, look, actually this is less costly because we don't have to design or widen the road out here like the city wants, because we've actually accounted for it, and this one's already widened, or hey, look, we don't have, like, it allows you to analyze all these different scenarios and analysis for cost, and
you
it's going to get us to that next
step. Your goal is
step.
to get here. This parking lot can only, support this much. You have this much space to, evolve over time to grow, or you're limited in this sense. And, if we could get that, dude, it would be awesome. We've
been chatting about this a long time. I want to hear from Rob. Rob, what's your thoughts on this space and how it feeds into kind of where you guys are going as a company, and what your thoughts are as an individual on the Expert Elite side?
Yeah, so I guess my first thought, going back to the GIS data, if you think about our entire country, we have infrastructure under the ground that's over 100 years old all over the place. How do you effectively, accurately map that? I mean, you got ground penetrating radar and other things, but it's not efficient, and you can't have a GIS
it looks
database
like a sonar
of the entire
type of thing, dude. I've worked with that.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody figures out a way to do that, they'll be a multimillionaire. But
yeah, I'm waiting for those X-ray machines in the GPR that can tell you exactly what's underground or what's in this wall.
Well, the issue is a lot of places don't. So those places don't have formalized systems with their assets recorded in the geoposition. I've worked in the survey industry, and specifically Buffalo, Texas. It's a podunk area. Nobody knows anything about it. It barely shows up on a map. But all of the data of where the pipes are is in this guy's head. You go out there and he's like, yeah, it's right about here. Yeah. And he points down to the ground. He's like, yeah, but we don't know that data. It's in somebody's head. So to touch on what you're saying, yeah.
And what's kind of sad about it is even designs and constructions that are happening today are still not documented. So what's going to happen 100 years from now? The stuff that's going in today, you're still not going to have a true as-built document of that infrastructure. So somebody developed a system to track all that. I mean, that would be awesome.
It would. It really would.
Let's get on it, Dave.
Dude, let's do it. Let's do it. Well, I think with that push to smart cities that we're seeing, I think it may kind of help us integrate towards that side, really focusing these cities on, these planning boards on, okay, if we put another development here, if we put an apartment building here, again, how is this going to affect us as we continue to grow? Would this be better as an industrial space? Would this be better as a residential, commercial? Like, start analyzing this, but also, as you guys are saying, recognizing the the actual usage of that space, and then kind of going into the as-built condition. So taking, of course, the demographics, psychographics, all of that, but let's say even with data management, if we can take these cities, have these cities, and we know, so Dude, one thing I have explored recently was that model builder in InfraWorks, right? And in some areas, you draw your kind of space and it will build you a modeler. And I noticed that it comes up with the buildings. If if we could take a system like that, that would give me the full site, how it is, the exact topo features, all of the vegetation, things like that, the existing piping conditions, the piping networks, and actually tie it into the BIM space, like the actual, where this building is, what has happened to it, how has it changed, where are these connections moves, what has been added. If we can take that and let's say start with a type of building or a type of model, right? Man, that's insane to me. If we can take this BIM space, this BIM model, and it doesn't, let's even say it's an IFC. It doesn't have to be the smartest thing out there. It doesn't have to take all of the information, but if you know where the important stuff is, let's say the actual foundation, the connections are made, if we have any big, like let's say we have an elevator pit or we have a safe or anything like that, just knowing these, thickened slabs or whatever details that you may need to know about this property when you get into it is only going to help set everyone up. I mean, even the cities, again, with planning, going back and knowing what they have, knowing these older buildings. We see a lot like Portland, right? I mean, Portland, Chicago, Boston, Atlanta, you name it. You'll drive around and see these old Pittsburgh, you'll see these old buildings that some of them are inhabited, right? They're just taking up space. And some of these other ones where they've kind of converted them to, a working space, but they're struggling in these buildings. And for me, it seems like when the cities tear down this building and they put this other building up and they think this is going to do great for this space, and then it fails, right? Or you'll see a city spend a bunch of money on overpasses and infrastructure that falls on its face, and then you end up, the overpasses are sitting there with no connection being made, right? It's just it's crazy that the cities don't have this kind of function or form of where they can look at everything and analyze that information, to really make those best decisions.
It's a pretty big undertaking, it is, but in an ideal world, man, that would be awesome to do that. And a kind of a ironic story that somewhat relates to that is my background. The Roman theater that's in Volterra, Italy, they actually, probably 60 years ago, it was a landfill. So they put trash in there, filled it in, and then they actually put soccer fields on top of it. And there was this one little old lady in the town of Volterra that if she would have passed away, it would have been lost forever. She told somebody important about it and said, hey, there used to be a Roman theater there. And then archaeologists came in and uncovered it, and all that. The rest was history. But that was their documentation, was that old lady's brain, that historic thing was there, Yep.
You imagine, crazy. You guys think about how much history has been lost to us just because we don't know about it. The things that we don't know about are insane.
Well, so there's I follow a lot of weird conspiracy theories, not like political related, but like human evolution related. No ancient aliens or anything like that. But like so there's there was this explorer in the that came from Spain, went down the Amazon, saw metropolitan cities, and so there were all these people, went back to Spain. They were like, and they sent out a crew maybe 100 years later, and there was no cities. It was all completely overgrown. And they're like, oh my God, there's nothing here. This is, they lied, blah, blah, blah. And now we're flying it with LiDAR, and we're realizing that people were on the South American continent thousands of years before we thought, all because we're flying it with LiDAR, and we're actually unearthing these ancient cities. But it's stuff that if the technology wasn't around, it wasn't somebody that just that said it in the original account, we would have never known, because the guy that went 100 years later was like, oh, there's nothing here, this guy lied.
Yeah. Did you guys ever see the show? I think it's on the History Channel. Buried Secrets of World War II, I think it's called. Actually, an ex-Autodesker is kind of the lead co-host of that show.
Yeah, I think it was Buried Secrets, or maybe it was one of the other ones. Maybe
have
I
to
think it
check
was
that
Buried
out.
Secrets. Yeah,
I'll have to check it out. I've tried like watching so many National Geographic shows lately on, buried civilizations and they say what is it, emptying the ocean. They make this like kind of rendering graphic of emptying the ocean and seeing different civilizations that sank or something. And I can't I don't know, the animation throws me off. I want to see the real stuff. You know what I mean? I think unearthing things like in Italy, I think the more that we can get with our history and see what's there, and again kind of see the aqueducts and things, there's so much in our history that has inspired the things that we do now, right? And I think the more that we know, the more that we find from it, the better decisions again that we can make moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of where this show, it kind of revolves around that kind of stuff. They go over to Germany with, remote sensing technologies like UAV, LiDAR, ground penetrating radar, all that kind of stuff. And they analyze like troop movements and underground bunkers and like
That's
protection
cool.
barriers. And they scan it all and then strip the vegetation off and analyze the data. And it's really intriguing. I think it's like maybe six episodes, 6 hours total to watch them all, but it's pretty interesting.
So the National Geographic and the Buried Secret stuff, I really like watching primarily because I recognize half the technology, whether it's a Faro or a TopCon or an EV Sense Fly or something like that. I'm like, hey, I know what that is, man. That's pretty cool. Like it's relatable. It's cool, and it's fun to learn about, like, oh man, like they did this like back then, like they, why were they flank and dig a trench here, whatever. You get to dive into that stuff, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we now have this technology in our pocket, right? The new
you got
12
the 12
with the LiDAR
man.
sensor.
There it is, dude. Hey, so I'll ask you, man. Yeah, I get all piped up when I see that. I told Joey the other day that I was kind of holding off because I heard they have battery issues. Are you experiencing any like battery issues with it? No.
No.
So how's the LiDAR?
LiDAR is, I mean, it's not
a commercial device. I get it.
It's a consumer grade sensor, low cost, that you carry around in your pocket. I mean,
it's like the Real Sense or something.
Yeah, I haven't done a lot of testing with it. I just got it about a week ago, but there's people posting things on social media that look pretty impressive. So I definitely want to dive into it a little more. Check it out.
All right.
I was an iPhone person, and then my wife destroyed like 12 iPhones in like a year. I was getting her new phone every month. It gets costly. And then I was like, damn it, I'm swearing off iPhones. And I went to BlackBerry, and then I went to Android. And in that, I haven't looked back. But now with this new LiDAR sensor that they've got, I'm on the fence, man. I could buy off in this ecosystem. If it wasn't for the whole BIM 360, wanting to lean more towards Android than iOS.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing that sucks about it. I'm like, man, I really loved when I was able to connect with layout and things like that with the Apple products. And I mean, I can still get into docs, right? And I'm still going to be able
but you can't do your layout workflows.
No,
man.
dude,
that's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, so I mean, that's going to be interesting. I mean, I know that the new iPads have the LiDAR data already, and the 12 got it. So I'm interested to. I really want to get it. I really want to get it.
It's a fun looking tool, man. I want it, dude.
Well, I can't wait till they integrate that with the VR. Joey, you and I were talking about that the other day, dude. They're making the AR glasses. They're integrating the AR glasses with it, dude. Oh yeah.
Apple glasses for $500 coming out in 2022. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah. I saw a preview post about those coming out. So definitely intriguing. We have done some AR and VR applications as well, so definitely try to stay up on that technology.
This is going to bring a different change to DIY, man. That's all I'm saying. DIY is going to go nuts when you introduce some AR, VR, MR with some glasses. Oh, bro, I'm going to become a mechanic. I'm going to become like a home specialist. You have no idea. Like, if
somebody's going to have an instruction in your headset and tell you what to do with your AR or your MR, and it's going to be like, hey, turn this wrench, 32, whatever. It's
break
going to
this apart. This is the part
you'll have a
torque
wrench, and I'll tell you what
add a turbo.
Yeah,
this is going to be at my Pro Charger to my Jeep Gladiator.
That's the next evolution, man. That's the internet 2.0, bud.
Yeah, man. I think as we get more into it, right now they have AR on your cell phones. Let's say I'm walking through Fred Meyer or Kroger's or Walmart or whatever. In some AR applications, it'll actually point you to things like it's in this
Yeah.
aisle, and it'll bring up arrows for you to walk down. That's
Oh, in the
awesome.
app, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
so do you guys remember, I thought it was the coolest thing ever when the Pontiac Grand Prix had a
No longer a
projector.
company.
Yeah, no longer a company, but that Pontiac Grand
Sorry,
Prix
man.
GT, man, or the GTP, it would show your speed on the windshield, right? It had a little light and it would show your speedometer and all that kind of stuff on the windshield. And as you're driving, I felt like that was the coolest thing
Yeah.
ever.
And that was
Right?
back in the late 1990s, I think,
Yes,
right?
in the 90s, yes, dude. That's what I'm saying. Like, if we can start integrating some kind of that technology with the GPS, with Google Maps, Apple
That's just a
Maps.
light in reverse on your dashboard.
Oh, I know.
reflecting on your.
I understand, but I'm
That's
saying, bro, like if we
hilarious.
can integrate that with
You,
some type of Google
our
Maps.
listeners have to understand that Dave. No offense, brother, but your choice of cars, man. Come on, dude. Pontiac Grand Prix.
Oh, dude, back in
Come
the
on,
day,
man.
that was the
Oh
great
no,
car.
it was
Like, I was in high
not.
school, man, coming out of high school. Yes, the GTP was a supercharged 3.8 liter V6.
Maybe the
Those
GTO,
3.8s
but
were proven.
GTP. Oh.
Ah,
You had a Dodge Caliber SXT. Come on.
none at negative.
Hey, I had a
SRT.
Pontiac too coming out of high school. I had a
Oh,
Dodge
Yeah,
GT.
there you
guys,
go. I
come
mean,
on, man.
Pontiacs were a lot cooler. Pontiacs were so cool, man.
Unless you
I
had the
can't lie.
Firebird.
Yeah. I mean, you got the Trans Am, you got the Firebird, the GTP series out of the Grand Prix, which I thought those things were so cool. The Solstice, the Pontiac Solstice, that was a
which
cool
is
car.
the Saturn Sky. I've got a friend that has a Redline Saturn Sky,
Oh, those
and
were
he's going through his midlife crisis right now, racing that thing around the racing Mazdas.
I would still do that. I'm not in
Yeah.
a midlife crisis, but I would definitely
Well,
still do that.
So he was an out of shape guy like me, but now he joined an American Ninja Warrior gym, got super fit, and he races. I mean, I won't call it midlife crisis, but he found himself. I'll put it that way. And he races these Saturn Sky red lines. Beautiful. They're the Pontiac. They're the same exact car as the Pontiac Solstice.
Yeah.
Same chassis, same everything. And he races those now.
It was like the Chrysler came out with gosh, what was that? They all came out with that small kind of two-door Sportster looking car, and it was a cool car, right?
Yeah, it was Plymouth Duster and Chrysler. What was the Chrysler one? I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. It was a cool kind of car, but it was,
Google that. Plymouth Duster and.
Because Chrysler and Plymouth were kind of the same.
They were the same. Yes, they were.
Yeah.
Yes, they were.
I remember the old Plymouth Duster. I'm just trying to figure out what the newer version is.
I can't remember what it was called now. But yeah, dude, I mean, I used to get so into cars. I loved cars. And I think about the technology as it begins to kind of spread, right? The AR, VR, MR. We'll use overlays a lot of times and things like that. Man, I tell you though, I really cannot even begin to, if I had a dollar, or let's say even a penny, for the amount of times I've gotten lost trying to use my GPS because it looks like it's this turn, but it really wasn't that turn because it didn't zoom in yet and tell me that it was that one, or I missed it because it didn't zoom in, and I kept driving because I thought I had. No, dude.
But
if you can get that integrated into my car, not on the radio, thank you. I don't want to look down and over. I'd rather just look straight and see in my peripheral vision that it has a big ass arrow pointing this way. I know which way I gotta go, right?
Just do the self-driving, the autonomous vehicles at that point. But which we're known for. I gotta drive, man.
This is like iRobot, bro. I mean, this is like iRobot. Am I gonna be Will Smith driving in this car and this other car?
You are no Will Smith, man.
I am not a Will Smith. No, I am not. You're right.
But to that end though, so your wife has the same minivan my wife has, which if you have kids, young kids like me, it's your 90% vehicle time.
You can fold down the seats all flat. I was telling somebody the other day.
I'm laughing, but I am sold on the van.
Bro, after my kids leave, I'm keeping the van. Like, I was like, wait a minute, I've used this thing as a truck. I put plywood in here. I've used PVC. I put everything in there. And then I'm thinking, like, this thing has a plug-in in the back. I'm going camping in this thing.
Wagon.
Get some tires on this. Yeah.
But so you have the Chrysler version. We have the Dodge version.
Yeah.
You have the same, I think it's the same year, the same GPS system, everything. So just want to go back to the GPS side of it. It'd be great to have it on the screen. But before I ask you this question, I got to ask you another question. How often do you find yourself relying on that GPS where you would be lost? You'd be like, oh shit, I've been here a million times, but I don't remember which street it's on and what corner it's on. So you need that GPS to get you there.
You're right.
All the time. The time.
So let me ask you the second question to this. You probably are like me and you're not paying for the upgrade fee because it's a stupid freaking Garmin GPS system, and you got to pay for a damn new upgrade every year, like $100 to upgrade your GPS on your Dodge or Chrysler GPS system. To get the latest one, how often have you seen that the GPS or do you always use GPS on your phone? I guess just preface.
I always use GPS on my phone.
All right.
No,
because
I'm not paying for any GPS. This is Google Maps or Apple Maps.
And we've run into a lot of like, well, all right, so I use the GPS on my car. And so, all right, so let me preface this by saying my wife's pregnant. She's, we're due literally any day now. Next Wednesday is the delivery date. And so we drive to the hospital, which is 30 minutes away. It's West Penn Hospital. So we drive down there, time ourselves. We're using the car GPS, and it's like a 45-minute drive. It's like, where the hell is this thing taking us? It's turns and back turns and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I turn on my phone GPS, and it's a totally different thing, and it just takes me, it's only a 28-minute drive at that point. It takes me 17 minutes. But at what point in time this GPS becomes outdated? So having that ability to integrate with your car, you're relying on your car still at that point in time. You've got to
you'd have to pull that
Google Maps.
That's
what I was getting.
That's it, dude.
A long way around, but I was getting
You're
to there.
Right. You're completely right, though. You're completely right. I don't want to put in a dang CD and try to update all this crap to my GPS app. No, that's definitely true. No, dude, and that also scares me, though. Connected cars. If you're connecting to a network, we're going to go Terminator and iRobot, and stuff gets really weird. You start getting really anxiety when you're driving your car.
Have you guys used the Waze application?
Oh yeah.
It's all crowdsourced, so you know where cops are, where the traffic is, all that kind of stuff.
Google owned too, though, Waze.
Yeah. I think some of that stuff is fed into Google Maps, I believe.
Yep, I love Waze. I've used it quite often. I found out about that app when I was driving through Seattle. Because Seattle, if any of you have driven through Seattle, you'll know. If nobody has, don't want to drive through Seattle. It is insane. You wouldn't walk through Seattle. Trust me. Just walk or get a bike. A bike would be beneficial. But just
pogo stick through Seattle faster than you can drive through Seattle. I get it is
not joking. Uphill. You could probably.
Speaking of bikes, I heard I was supposed to watch a video from you guys riding bikes somewhere in Vegas, I guess.
Man. I just want to say I won that battle.
Down on the bike. That's what happened.
I just want to say I won that battle. Dave took the short bike and got screwed a little bit, but I won. But he smoked me. He was doing like 3 push-ups in the time that it took me to do 1 in the push-up competition. So we're going to call it a draw for the year. But that was AU last year, and I want to get back to that, man. I miss the in-person. What were your big takeaways from AU this year? This is a good segue to wrap up, by the way.
Yeah. So I thought it was as good as it could have been being virtual. I mean, it's definitely missing all the in-person interaction, the networking, interacting with 10,000 of your best friends out there in Vegas, and just the whole atmosphere of AU in person. But so I thought Autodesk did a really good job with the virtual side of it, but it doesn't take the place of the in-person event by any means.
Yeah, this wasn't a flack on Autodesk by any means, but I had a little puff piece I wrote about like AU and stuff, and it was just like it's not the same. It doesn't feel like the same, but it literally it was we were doing the best we could with what we had. AU online, Autodesk delivered. It was great. The content was great. 700 plus classes, 100,000 plus attended. I mean, that's worth noting. I'm going to be watching online content for the next 6 months. It's going to be great. Classes I had signed up for were I had missed, but I don't know if you had gotten to fully attend all the ones you signed up for.
No, I didn't get to attend all of them yet. I hope to plan to watch them. I think a lot of my staff, like across the company, were like, "Hey, I joined this class, and they're not really showing me anything," because they joined the live Q&A and didn't realize you were supposed to watch the class before you went to the Q&A.
I did with the Revit Inventor class.
I was like, I signed up for this class, and I pop in, and this is the Q&A, not the live class. I'm like, so where's the live class? Where do I see the class? I mean, dude, I thought it was awesome, but at the same time, to your point there, Joe, I felt distracted. Like I still had other things to do. I was still doing my job, and I was kind of half paying attention. Now, there were some that I was really interested in, and you'll try to focus, but then an email comes in or somebody calls you and you're like, oh crap. Okay.
Well, the wife comes downstairs and asks you a question.
Yeah. Or the kids are stomping overhead, and the 5-year-old comes downstairs and she wants your attention. Being able to concentrate, like when you're in Vegas, when you're in the class, you're able to kind of concentrate, take notes, and dive into that.
My Wi-Fi sucks in Vegas. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's T-Mobile. Wi-Fi sucks in Vegas. My phone server sucks in Vegas. The Wi-Fi, they give you a convention center Wi-Fi to jump on. That sucks. You got 10,000 people on the same Wi-Fi. It's not great. So I was captive. I was very captive in Vegas. And then, I'm like entrenched with the Amy Marks, DFMA, pre-industrial, prefabrication, industrialized construction talks, because I live for data. I love data, and I love being able to put that to the supply chain. But that said, like I missed most of those because again I'm beholden to people coming downstairs, or I'm super responsive to my emails, and it's a pet peeve, but also yet something I'm proud of, that I answer emails like that. But a gentleman that you and I are friends with, that we have our local meetings with, and we or drinks or beers, all that fun stuff. He was telling me the same thing. Is like his wife came downstairs, or came into his space rather, and he's supposed to be watching a class, and the class that he was been looking forward to, this is the primary class, he caught 10 minutes of. So, but the benefit to all this being online, and it's one thing that we haven't really touched on, is they're all recorded. Everything is recorded. Yes, you can ask questions, but who cares? At the level we're at, not saying we're above anybody, but we know the people that we need to chat with. If we have questions about this, we know who to go to with our questions. So, but for everybody else, they don't know who maybe to ask their questions. So I see a cat on your head, by the way, dude.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, dude. I was trying to mute. This dude wants attention. We got a kitten, and he
12 weeks, man.
Yeah. His thing is, you can hear him purring right now. He loves to cuddle and be held, and he's like a parrot. He has to walk on my shoulders or on my back, and then he lays down, and then he purrs and meows at me to kind of pet him. Anytime he sees me working, if I'm standing up, he will climb up my back and get on my shoulders. But if I'm sitting down, it's kind of nicer in that sense. I don't have the claws in my back.
That's good, man. No kneading in your back.
Yeah.
But so I guess just touch back on that real quick. The ability to kind of go back and look at the content later on, because people come down, they bother you, or doesn't matter how well prepared you are and how much time you've allotted, and you've told enough people, you got your out of office reply. A fire drill is still a fire drill. If that fire drill comes in, if the owner of the company wants to get at you, you're going to make yourself available. Now in Vegas, for me at least, I think I had AT&T at the time, maybe not T-Mobile, but I didn't have great service. So no matter what, I was not available unless I went to a specific designated spot where I had
Yep.
great service. So I was entrenched. I was a captive audience. What about you, Rob?
Even during the breaks, I was captivated because they'd bring out buffets of awesome food and coffee and tea, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute.
The buffets or the DJ with the fog lights, the fog going and the strobe lights.
Oh yeah.
Dude, as you go into the keynote. Oh, I love that, man. That's fun.
You made a smoothie by riding a bike. You rode your bike, and as you rode the bike, it blended your smoothie together. You picked your ingredients and then did it, and I'm like, this is awesome. Yes.
So Rob, my question to you is, what are your thoughts on that? And two, what are your thoughts on where it's going to be next year? If it's going to be in Vegas, or have they specified?
Yeah, so I thought this year was going to be the last year in Vegas, which
COVID.
Yep. So maybe next year will be, but I heard Nashville, New Orleans, Dallas.
For all those.
Yeah, a lot of different locations that it possibly could be. So yeah, I think wherever it is, I think we'll all be happy to get together in person for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah, for me though, in the class, like I was always tapped into Wi-Fi on my laptop or phone, answering emails, because with as much staff as I support, I always got to be tuned in and connected. So unfortunately, you gotta kind of half stay in the office, but half in the class. So
let's put a pin in that for a second. Just to specify here. So you said earlier, CEC 25 offices, over 1,000 staff, and your title is you are the Corporate CAD Manager for all those staff. So you are supporting essentially the whole company in those 80 applications, or in a select few of those 80 applications?
No, I support in most of those applications. So yeah, we have 650 Civil 3D users across the company.
Wow.
And as of right now, I'm kind of the only guy that does that in my role. I'm trying to work on getting some assistance, but
you have other CAD managers I've noticed at CEC.
We do.
I've seen a few, but is that specifically AutoCAD, or is that civil focused?
It's both. Yeah. So we try to put a CAD lead in each one of our locations. So they try to be the first line of defense, the first person people go to with Q&A. But ultimately it kind of comes up the chain to me to implement standards or styles or workflows, or, workflow processes, or how this software talks to this software, all that good stuff.
Yeah. As Dave and I chat about this in damn near every episode, it's less about the picks and clicks and the in the siloed applications. It's more about how this software hands over to the next application. So I imagine you're doing quite a bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier in this recording, like I'm not the expert in all 80 of those softwares, but I at least know who to talk to in our company, or who to point people to get the answer.
Trades, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an answer in itself.
It's sometimes just putting two people together that need to be put together to accomplish a task. And sometimes that's all it is.
Dave and I chat about this a lot, man. We are Dave. Well, Dave, you're a master of Revit, so you master in something.
Yeah,
I'm the jack.
I guess.
I'm the jack of all trades. I think the only thing I'm mastering is BIM 360, although that goes through a million iterations. So we'll see how that plays in the future. But Dave and I use Civil 3D. We use Revit. We use Inforix. We use Bluebeam. Under the sun, we use it all.
You name it, yeah.
But
so you guys are probably up there 80 applications too, I'm sure.
Dude, if I could expand it, you know what I mean? So personal use, I've been expanding it with the free applications in more that I can, just learn myself. Joe turned me on to Tinkercad the other day, which of course is an Autodesk product, but dude. Yeah.
7-year-old. She's 7, damn it. 7, not 8.
Yeah, dude, slow down. No, I was
Stop
telling
aging.
I've never heard of Tinkercad before. My kids, I've been teaching them a little bit of Format, because my son, he gets into video games. He loves it. Minecraft, any building games like world building. the dude just annihilated my storage on my PlayStation. And he would build these large elaborate worlds. He'd just build a statue of Iron Man, and I'm like, all right, dude, let's go into Format and let's see what you want to do. In the first few hours that I taught him how to use Format, he had like drawn a factory, and then he drew a robot, and I'm like, well, what is this? And he's like, oh, that's my factory. And I'm like, what's your factory making? He's like, oh, more robots. This is going to be the big robot, and these are going to be the little robots that are going to listen to the big robot. And I'm like, oh, okay, buddy. All right.
That's fitting with your big robot in the background and the little king robot on the shoulder of the big robot, by the way.
Yeah. If I gave Gabe Minecraft, he'd probably not check back into reality. That dude would be gone. He'd be
These
like,
kids are going to take over the world, man. I'm serious.
Yeah.
They're like so technologically advanced. Like my daughter, I don't know if you could see this, but she made this a few years ago in elementary school in Autodesk Inventor and then 3D printed it.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yes.
So that's what brought up the whole Tinkercad part. Was my daughter, she'll be 8 in February. So my kids are all holiday babies. My daughter is Super Bowl Sunday. My son is New Year's Eve, and fingers crossed this one will be Thanksgiving or Black Friday or Cyber Monday, so I can check that box. But that said, my daughter was really interested in 3D printing. So, I mean, that's perfect. Like, so I was going to teach her like Fusion 360. Was your kid using Fusion?
Yeah, I think they taught her Fusion, Inventor, Basic AutoCAD. And my son, when he was in the Basic AutoCAD class, he came home and was all proud. He's like, hey, I'm learning what you do. So I was like, here, let me show you how to draw a 3D Pac-Man. So he went in the next day and showed his teacher how to draw Pac-Man in 3D. The teacher had no idea how to do this. And he's like, where'd you learn this? He's like, my dad showed me.
He's a corporate CAD manager for the largest, civil environmental company in Pittsburgh.
That's
Sorry.
awesome. That's so great. I love that they're pushing it into more of the education these days. Like, the sooner that we can get them involved with it and get them passionate about it. And that's how we're going to get it to push the technology further.
So do you have a 3D printer?
I do not. No, they actually have one at her school. I want one. Yeah. I've been trying to figure out a way why we need one at CEC so I can have them.
If you just save 2 months on your beer bill, man, you'll have a 3D printer.
Joe, right? I'm gonna have to get that CNC that you sent me the other day, man.
Oh yeah, that was
cool.
So my daughter, she wants to get 3D printing, but me, I want to get into CNC. So I'm gonna do a DIY CNC, but I found this really cheap CNC for wood engraving. I was gonna replace the engraver with and maybe the components to kind of stabilize with it, but a low-cost trim router essentially to kind of just do wood. But I want to do another step up with the Raspberry Pi system and build a full metal CNC or something like that. See how that plays.
Aluminum plastic one. That's what I do. So I've been building this AR10 here, this 308. And as I'm doing this, I want to do more builds, but I'm realizing what parts of it are a pain in the ass. And I got to talk to a couple different people, a couple of armorers near me, and they told me they're 3D printing like molds. Yeah. They're 3D printing, just cutting plastic so my gas block and pushing my gas line in. That was a pain in the ass to try and take this gas block, it's
we
nuts.
We can talk about some of that offline because I'm into that stuff too.
Oh yeah, dude. Definitely.
# David is a hippie with a gun.
And I love building them, man. It's a lot of fun. We talk about it's like Legos for adults. It's a lot of fun putting these things together. But you start again, kind of when you recognize the pain points, then you're like, man, if I had a 3D printer, I'd cut a damn mold for this thing, and I could set it right in here, and then just tap, tap, tap. I'm good to go. And that's how you start. Just pushing the industry forward.
You and I have chatted about this offline quite a bit, but we're going to get a 3D printer, a CNC machine online, our own scan technology, and we're going to build our own damn apps to integrate just about everything. Yeah. This is like the brewing with BIM. This is where we're going to push through. We'll see what happens. We're going to be too drunk to ever make this happen, but damn it, we're going to try.
Oh, real quick. I think it was at Autodesk University, maybe a couple years ago, but they were talking about 3D printing technology on the International Space Station, where you have to print in zero gravity, which is a challenge in itself. But if they needed a part or a wrench or something, they could just send it from NASA up to the space station, print it, and there you go. They have it.
Yeah.
So this is the basis for Elon Musk's. He wants to 3D print on Mars. Autodesk, I'm sure you guys follow this, but so in Oregon, there was the inventor team for Autodesk forever. And now that team they're doing a lot of different things. They're pushing Fusion 360, all that sort of stuff. But there was a big emphasis on the Ember system. Ember was the platform language, and the Spark was or maybe I'm getting this wrong. Amber was the 3D printer, and Spark was the language. Don't quote us on shit, guys. We're 3 beers in. I had 11%.
I won my bullet, and I'm drinking my second beer, which I'm catching up to you guys at your first one. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm too deep on the trogs, and I'm just about finished with this Hazy Jane.
Yeah.
So Autodesk has this 3D printing technology. I don't know if you're familiar with. I'm going to butcher it. It's either Spark or Amber. It's one of them. One is the 3D printer. One is the 3D printing language. Have you dove into any of that stuff? Because that's what they're trying to push for the next planet printing shit.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, I used an Autodesk application. I forget the exact name of it. I'll have to look it up. But we had we do landfill designs as well. So like this client of ours, the COO for this big landfill company, contacted me. He wanted a 3D model of his landfill. So I did it all in InfraWorks, real nice and neat. I sent him, uploaded
weird thing to want your 3D model of, but okay.
Yeah, so I sent it to him electronically that he could move it around in 3D orbit and zoom in. He's like, this is good, but I want something I could set on my desk.
Solid, yeah. Yep.
So we started looking, and this was like 2 foot by 3 foot, so large format 3D printing. So I had to search all over the country, finally found a company in Minnesota to print this for us, printed it, and gave it to him. He freaking loved it. And then he's like, hey, can we color code each one of the phases of the landfill and print it separately so I could put it together, each phase, like 16 phases of the landfill on his desk? Like, yeah, we could do that. If you're going to pay for it, we'll do it.
Yeah.
So he just wanted that physical model, even though we had all this digital technology at our fingertips.
Well, some people are like that, though. They have to, I mean, they're, when we think about the different types of people and how they learn, like, right, learning styles in itself, some people have to touch things, and they're just like that. And I think the more that we can, adapt that technology, even with architects, landscape architects and architecture in general, you'll see them start to design and make these little scale models of how everything will be to introduce to the owner. I think that's awesome, and especially when we can 3D print it on the site instead of trying to build it out of popsicle sticks and Elmer's glue or whatever it is.
There's an architect in Seattle who's a client of ours that we go visit quite a bit, and they have a map of the city that's been 3D printed, and they add their own buildings to it every time, and they're specifically color coded which buildings are theirs, and it's pretty remarkable to see. Obviously, it's a statement piece to see which buildings are theirs.
But I think that would be a key in learning too, though, right? We see a lot in the medical facility, like the medical environment. When you start breaking down and color coding things, let's start thinking about how we can break it down and color code buildings too.
So we've made this transition to digital construction. Rob, you're a Civil 3D user, InfraWorks, all that sort of stuff. I imagine you guys, for the most part, have gotten away from paper plan sets. Maybe you guys use Bluebeam, BIM 360, doesn't matter. Just a digital representation of that design set. Getting away from the 3D representation there, Dave, to your point, there are still always those people that just have to touch, feel, sense, that kind of component, like the owner that you had just mentioned for that landfill. Do you see digital construction? This is a Rob question to you, obviously. Do you see that move to digital construction kind of being a burden for those people that have to touch, feel, sense that type of material? Or do you think that it's just an added layer of something for them to interpret?
Yeah, so I guess it ultimately depends on that individual. some people adapt to it better than others. Some people are kind of stuck in their ways and old school, and they don't want their resistance to change. So it all depends on that individual, but we definitely have seen the trend to less paper and more digital. So I would say, if I had to guess, over the last 10 years, we're probably 15 to 20% of what we were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I had a conversation earlier, just kind of start to wrap up process, but I had a conversation earlier with a young lady who, I say young, she's older than me, but young in the sense that she's still young, who had come from the blueprint side of the business, and now she's in the digital space, and she's kind of navigating that transition and seeing people who she knew in the blueprint space actually don't really care about blueprints, and we're talking now about digital transformation. There seems to be this big shift, and it's not just COVID driven. It was pre-COVID. You call it BAM, you call it SIM, whatever you want, but the technology has kind of forced us into this kind of funnel for the digital, less tangible kind of aspect, where we get the real-time updates, all that fun stuff. All the perks and benefits of that, but we also lose the I can actually draw on this and mark up on it kind of aspect. Do you see your own company following in line with that?
Yeah, we do. We do use Bluebeam a lot. A lot of the project managers are now starting to review and mark up plan sets in Bluebeam. So we're definitely getting away from the physical hard copy paper version of the plan sets throughout the whole, life cycle of a project. Even clients, we'll do Bluebeam studio sessions with clients or contractors or architects and collaborate through Bluebeam Studio on a conference call, in the studio session.
That's awesome. I don't know if you know this, but Dave here is one of the foremost Bluebeam experts in the country. I just want to toot your horn a little bit. Dave speaks at all the XCon. Speaks at all the XCon, which XCon is a bad name because it sounds like it's an ex-convict.
I'm an ex-con. No, it's the Extreme Conference. Yeah,
Extreme Conference. He speaks at the Extreme Conference. Like, Dave is a formal person on the Bluebeam side of things.
I love it.
And he's been a big proponent for years of the Bluebeam Studio side of things. I was one of the first to adopt in our company, I think, for the support and stuff side of things, and we were one of the first platinum partners. But Dave, man, like, the stuff that you do with Bluebeam is remarkable, and looking at what customers, especially like CEC, you guys are probably pushing the boundaries, I imagine, on this sort of stuff, especially using Studio. Seeing what people are doing with digital documentation, it's blowing my mind that the reliance on plan sets, paper plan sets, it's gone out the window. This is what I used to work from, as a paper plan set, but within 10 years, it's gone. It's done.
It's just an interesting mindset, I think, though, when we kind of look at that, though, the PDF itself, what information we can extract from it, but then you start realizing there's parts of our industry that only use PDF. They're not connected to the design part of it, the process, right? If we can actually take people into the design portion, of course, that's in my mind better, because of the metadata that you can collect, how you can interact with the design, things like that. But once it's a PDF, and again, there's a portion of our industry that only works with the PDF format. That's where it's, again, kind of pushing it forward. The more we can interact with that information.
I think that has to do with size, right? Like company size. Like, I imagine. So, Rob, question to you on the CEC side. Are you guys primarily working off of PDFs, or do you guys take into account 3D documentation that goes along with it?
I would say primarily PDFs. We're about a 1,100 person company. I think we have around 700 seats of Bluebeam. That just kind of shows you how invested we are with the digital reviewing and documentation process. The 3D side of things, not so much on the civil side. I can see that more on the architectural side for sure.
Yeah, I think I mean, so we want to, of course, see this transition over to the digital review documentation kind of process, right? We of course want to see that transition because I think that's definitely needed. Now, if I'm honest, I want to push past that. I want to push into where, of course, we can start interacting not with the design file because, excuse me, the beer's kicking in, but not with the design file itself, but let's say a imitation or a copy of that design file, like with Bluebeam, right? It's great, and even with the 3D PDFs, that's really where I want to kind of push to. When you're printing this document, you're actually sending the metadata with it, right? We can interact it. So let's think of BIM 360 docs, right? When you click into the 2D view of it, I can click on a wall, I can click on an air handling unit, I can click on different things within that kind of, it's almost like a 2D view of it, right? But it still has that 3D metadata. It's almost like a cut view. And I can still interact and pull data from that. That's really what I want to see. That's where I want to go. When I actually send this document over, when the designer prints it, we don't want it to go over into a 2D flattened PDF. Now, yes, Bluebeam is awesome with its vectorized information, but imagine if when we print that document, that 2D sheet, you could click on that AHU and know everything that goes into that air handling unit, what system it's involved with, different things like that to pull from, right? That's only going to benefit, I think, everybody kind of moving forward, whether they're doing takeoffs, they're doing design review, they're actually constructing it, whatever it is, it's going to help the more information that we can push with it.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I love the PDFs and I love Bluebeam. I think it's awesome. I just think that moving forward, the way that we can utilize this data instead of, again, pushing it into the PDF. Joey said it's the size of the company, but I feel like, yes, it's the size of the company, but also with what data needs to be taken in, right? Nobody's going to jump into AutoCAD if they don't need it, right? If we can utilize this PDF and take all the information that we need, that's what we're going to do. So we're still seeing that, which of course with BIM 360 that can handle PDFs and tear it apart. So we're still seeing that kind of, I guess, pushing forward. But I want to see that model data start to become more than just these 2D sheets. I want to see it like not where you can manipulate
that's hard
it, right?
on the civil side, right? Like
Yeah.
it's different on the civil side. We're not talking 3D entities with all the data driven in there. We're talking surfaces and there's
Yeah, well,
tins.
Yeah.
why? Yeah, I get that, but why wouldn't it
There's
be like
materials
a
and stuff like
3D
that, but
document? Why couldn't we take a measurement to verify slope? Why couldn't we, say, okay, let's make sure this drone or this drain. Let's say we have a, I can't
you're
think of what
asking the
it's
right
called, but
person.
a
That's the guy
collection.
you want to talk to.
Well, yeah, no, I'm saying, but let's
Yeah.
make sure this collection here, let's say we're going to make a collection tank, or I can't think of what it is, a drain tile, what have you.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that everything is going down in this direction, and this drain tile is going to be able to
This is
handle
called
this
rating, by
load.
the way.
Yeah,
Sorry. I'm
the
messing with you, dude.
slope,
I'm
the
messing with you.
grade,
Go ahead.
whatever,
Yeah,
man, I'm
definitely
all over
the
the place.
underground utilities and infrastructure, drainage, all that kind of stuff that we design. Yeah, definitely that in 3D that can show a lot of things before you get out to construction. Interference checks, and you could check the slopes and all that good stuff, constructability, and then the surface model and pavement and all that other stuff that we're going to design on site. Pretty much civil engineers design everything outside of the building. So there definitely is applications for the 3D documentation in the civil industry. I think just a lot of the professional engineers are used to reviewing and signing and sealing those 2D plans,
Yep, I definitely agree with that. They're used to it, right? That's one of these disruptors in the industry, and I think we kind of need it, especially with machine control and things like that. If you give an operator or somebody a chance to read a profile, and they're like, "Man, I got to dig this trench, and let's go ahead and read this profile," instead of knowing exactly where this pipe is, and going to dig into it, and knowing with this 3D model or layout information that it carries a point. just there's so many different ways that we can utilize this information, I feel like. And taking it 3D instead of 2D and flat helps with interpretation and visualization, right?
I just want to harp on that point right there about 2D engineers signing 2D real quick. Do you think that that's a deterrent to moving along the industry? Because I've chat with many people, and on the BIM side, we get 3D all day long, right? But on the civil side, there's kind of a understanding that at some point in time, unless you have a great long-standing relationship, you're going to get an exploded DWG, and you're going to have to recreate, especially from a grading standpoint, you're going to have to recreate the machine control aspects of this for you guys to be able to use in your, further downstream. Is that something you're still seeing? Are you guys trying to break that curve? Just trying to figure out what's going on?
I mean, we're definitely trending towards the digital, deliverables. But ironically, like these reviewing agencies and permitting agencies that we issue our drawings and documents to, some of them still want wet signed and sealed Mylar drawings.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're dealing with in this industry. And like, until they start getting on board, it's going to be hard for all these civil engineering firms to kind of get like.
So offline, you give me all of these people's numbers, man. I'm going to give them calls and we're going to have some conversations.
Well, dude, I think it's just, he said it right there. I mean, government entities, a lot of times, I think that's a hard trust, right? They have that hard trust environment where they're like, wait, you're sharing my information in the cloud? We don't know if we can do that, right? And I don't know if I want to do this.
Well,
I don't know. There's so many barriers, jumps you got to get over.
This was in my write-up, plug this guy, right? My plug for my write-up. I did this, brief write-up. It was nothing, but in it, I mentioned the kind of adverse reactions to the cloud, which it's a big deterrent. Yes. I know a large architects firm. I say large, 80 seats of AEC collections, good sized firm, right? That was appalled by the thought of going to the cloud. Their owners were like, no, our data's less secure. We can never do this. And then you prove the use case to them. It's something that comes over time. That person has to pretty much leave in order for us to have that conversation about the cloud. But then once you have the cloud, it's like, oh my God, this saved us like thousands of dollars. We more than paid for our seats of the design application to move to the cloud by doing this workflow instead of doing traditional methods. And it's all because there's this mindset that the cloud is unsecure, that people kind of hold. But so Britton Langdon. Yeah, so Britton Langdon was on our podcast, and I had this conversation actually earlier today with Jacob Horton. Britton Langdon actually brought up a beautiful point about cloud technology and technology in general. Is whenever we build technology, we never think about the security factors, and then when we do think about the security factors, it's actually to our detriment, because the company that we're questioning all the security factors to is a Fortune 500 company that's already thought about all the security factors and has all this. They've got their FISA and their FedRAMP and all that stuff in place. And we should literally just, thinking about it, get out of our own way and not put all our trust in some company, but at least, play with the technology to figure out if it's going to meet our standards.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's hard these days with cyber warfare and everything like that, all the hackers and everything, dude. It's real. I mean, it's real. You think about that type of stuff. It is real.
I have a dozen or so companies that I know of across the country that have been attacked with ransomware. I don't want to put you on the spot about that, but have you encountered any ransomware type stuff, or know anybody that's encountered that stuff in the future, or in the past, not in the future?
Yeah. Our president got nailed. He clicked on a bad link, locked up his computer, and they had to pay some sort of ransom to get it back. Man. And they paid, and thankfully they sent them the unlock key.
You have to do it within 20 or 48 hours or something insane like that.
Yeah,
right?
Dude, it's nuts.
Yeah, but 5 years ago, this is kind of some of the battles like I was facing and our IT manager was facing, is like trying to get our company to go to the cloud with a lot of different applications. And now, like, you know, we're fully embedded into the cloud.
Oh yeah,
no looking back, and like, you know, as you guys know, your data is way more secure in the cloud than it is in your on-premise server or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
I did an ethics training, a security and ethics training in the past week or two. And then this week I fell victim to an ethics and security thing. Luckily, it was a test from them, but still, it was like like they sent me a thing. And again, they we did the ethics and security thing, and it was like a Pizza Hut sends you it was, you got a free pizza. And I was just like, I don't believe any of this. And I was stupid and I clicked unsubscribe when that's not what you do. You don't click unsubscribe because you're giving me your information. Instead, what you do is you actually just delete the email and don't worry about it. But I fell victim to that myself, which was, dumb. It sucked.
We did an internal test after the president got nailed with that ransomware. Our IT manager sent out an email to all employees from our president asking for a donation of a gift card of like $50 to a charity.
I bet a lot fell for that.
There were so many people that did this, and I'm like, we should fire every one of them.
You just gave $50 because the president told you to. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I just want to say I'd probably give $50.
As soon as I got it, I sent it to our IT guy. I'm like, is this legit? He's like, yeah, it's a test. Ignore it.
So one of my best friends, Dave, Doug Lordson, he was an Autodesk license agreement manager. He worked out of the Manchester office for years. He was on the licensing side for Autodesk for about, 6 to 10 years. And then he came back to us. So he was with us, went to Autodesk, came back to us. And now he's on our IT team. So now, every now and then, I'll shoot him an email and say, look, dude, is this legit, man? I do the whole thing that you just said. Is this legit? But for whatever reason, last week, I failed that test, and I clicked unsubscribe, man. And they got back to me, and they're like, you have been, targeted with, this was a test, and you failed. And I'm like, damn it, I just took the test.
Yeah.
It is what it is, man.
Yeah.
Well,
so
hey,
man. Does this go down in record as the longest podcast ever?
I was just about to say, man, I think we're about an hour and 45 minutes, somewhere around there. We're pushing some boundaries here. I think now's probably a good time to start the wrap up. I texted David probably about 10 minutes ago, like, look, man, we're at that limit, man. We should probably start wrapping up. I don't want to waste your time. I know we're heading into the holiday weeks, but before we jump offline, I just want you to tell me a little bit more about your Volterra and kind of wrap up a little plug about CEC and yourself.
Yeah. So Volterra, like I said, in hopes we can go back next year and continue on some of those projects that are still underway. CEC as a company is doing really well, and ironically, throughout this pandemic, we've had the most profitable year we've had in the last 10 years, which is kind of hard to believe, but fortunate to be a part of a good company with good leadership. So definitely blessed to be with these guys. We've grown a lot since I've been a part of the company. I've been with CEC 13 years. I think I started, we were 230 employees. Now we're 1,100, pushing 1,200 employees.
Wow.
So, we grow on average 20% a year in revenue and employees, which is pretty good for civil engineering companies. Always looking for new opportunities in different markets and, smaller companies to acquire to get different territories around the country. Myself just doing my thing, plugging away, just keep doing what I do, and, all good. So,
well, I look forward to following you guys. You guys are a Pittsburgh staple. And adding to that, man, I look forward to our continued monthly conversations. Although with the holidays coming up, it might be January, unfortunately. But we'll try and plan something for mid-December, see how that sticks. But
I gotta have Rob on another podcast.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, this podcast could go for at least another.
Oh yeah, I could talk all night.
He was saying, right? Like, look, man, we've hit a record here with how long this is going. It's like, and I don't feel like we're done. I was like, all right, we got to figure out a way to wrap this up soon.
I know, dude. Like, honestly, I could keep going into scanning. I could go into UAV.
Yeah,
We could go into soon to be We're
3 more
closers.
things in my head right now that I know if I say it, we're going to be on here till midnight.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think we got to have Rob on again.
We have a tendency to dive into tangents. It's actually the whole podcast format is we have, 3% of the conversation is planned and 97% of it is tangents. I can talk. And that's literally how it goes. But with 11% alcohol, I don't know how much more I can be coherent. So I think this is probably a good stopping point, guys.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. I appreciate you inviting me to be on your podcast. Definitely honored to be a guest.
Oh, well, you're going to be a guest on a few more, man. So you've fallen victim to this. Sorry, bud.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
I'd be happy
You're
to.
wrong.
Be happy
All
to.
right. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to hang up now. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.